Imagine a world without supermarkets, without refrigerators, a world where your next meal isn't just a wish, but a life or death gamble. 1 million years ago, this was the stark reality for our ancestors. Subscribe for more content. Today, we're journeying deep into the past, to a time when finding food was the most dangerous game of all. We often picture our early ancestors as a unified group, bravely facing the world together. But the truth is far more complex and often far more brutal. The daily quest for calories was the driving force of existence, and this relentless pressure forged not just cooperation, but also deadly conflict. Let's start by setting the scene. 1 million years ago, the landscape was a mosaic of dangers and opportunities. Hominins, our ancient relatives like Homo erectus, roamed these lands. They weren't at the top of the food chain yet. They were just another part of it, constantly competing for resources. Think about what was on the menu. It wasn't about choosing between organic or non-organic. It was about anything that could provide energy. Roots, tubers, wild fruits, insects, and perhaps the most valuable prize of all, meat. But acquiring meat was fraught with peril. These early humans were primarily scavengers, not yet the master hunters they would become. They followed packs of formidable predators like saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas, waiting for a chance to dart in and steal a piece of the kill. This act alone was a dance with death. A miscalculation, a moment of hesitation, and a scavenger could easily become the hunted. The predators that made the kill weren't keen on sharing. Confrontations were swift and brutal. An individual caught alone by a returning predator stood little chance. This constant threat from other species was the first layer of conflict. Every meal snatched from the jaws of a lion was a victory against starvation, but it was a victory paid for with immense risk. But the competition didn't just come from other animals. Perhaps the most intense and dangerous rivals were other groups of hominins. Imagine your small family group has tracked a herd of herbivores for days. You've managed to isolate a weak or injured animal. Just as you close in, another group appears over the ridge, with the same desperate hunger in their eyes. What happens next? In a world of scarcity, sharing wasn't always an option. These encounters could easily escalate from tense standoffs to violent clashes. Archaeological evidence, though sparse, paints a grim picture. Fossilized remains of early hominins sometimes show signs of trauma that aren't consistent with animal attacks. Depressed fractures on skulls, for example, could indicate blows from a blunt object like a rock or a heavy branch, the primitive weapons of the time. While it's difficult to say for certain what caused each injury, it's highly plausible that intergroup competition over a prized carcass or a resource-rich territory was a common cause of such violence. A single large animal could feed a group for days, making it a resource worth fighting and dying for. The conflict wasn't just between different groups. It could even arise within the same clan. During times of extreme scarcity, like a long drought or a harsh winter, the social fabric could tear. Food distribution would have been a major point of tension. Who eats first? The strongest hunters? The elders who hold the knowledge? The children who represent the future? These are questions with no easy answers. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies show that while sharing is a core value, it's governed by complex rules and can be a source of friction. 1 million years ago, when the stakes were even higher, these internal disputes could have been devastating. A failed hunt could mean not just hunger, but a breakdown of the social order that was essential for survival. Think about the psychological toll. Every day was a battle. The constant anxiety of finding food, the fear of predators, the suspicion of strangers, and even the tension within your own kin. This environment would have selected for certain traits: cunning, opportunism, aggression, but also an incredible capacity for cooperation within a trusted in-group. Your survival depended on your ability to balance these conflicting pressures. You had to be fierce enough to defend your resources, but cohesive enough to work together to acquire them in the first place. Let's consider the geography of this conflict. Prime territories, areas with reliable water sources, abundant edible plants, and frequented by game, were hotbeds of competition. Control over such a location was the ultimate prize. We can imagine groups clashing over access to a riverbank where animals came to drink, or a grove of fruit-bearing trees. These weren't grand battles like we see in history books. They were likely skirmishes, ambushes, and violent disputes between small, desperate bands of individuals. Losing such a conflict didn't just mean missing a meal. It could mean being driven out into barren lands where the chances of survival plummeted. This constant struggle over food had a profound impact on our evolution. It drove innovation. The need to access more food sources, like bone marrow, led to the development of better stone tools. The need to outsmart both prey and competitors likely spurred cognitive development, improving planning, communication, and social strategies. The very pressures that made life so dangerous were also the catalysts that pushed our ancestors to become smarter, more adaptable, and ultimately more human. The conflict wasn't just a story of violence. It was a story of evolution in action. So, as we look back 1,000,000 years, we see that the simple act of eating was anything but. It was a complex web of cooperation, competition, and conflict. The struggle for food shaped our bodies, our minds, and the very foundations of our social structures. It pitted our ancestors against the giants of the animal kingdom and, perhaps most tragically, against each other. It's a humbling reminder that for most of our history, survival was a daily, deadly fight. The peace of mind that comes with a full pantry is one of the greatest and most recent luxuries of our species. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the deep past. It's a stark world to consider, but understanding it helps us appreciate our own. If you found this exploration fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what ancient topic you'd like us to explore next. Until then, stay curious.